go time.
The boys are back. That's right, Florida Man Sports is here with another exciting episode. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. This is Florida Man Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Florida Man Sports.
Let's go.
Now, on this week's show, we're actually going to give you a full show. We're not cutting them up here. We want to make sure you guys get the full Florida Man experience. Now, if you want to cut through the video, you want to listen to us talk about any specifics, there are timestamps in the description, guys. So go ahead and click through it. Or if you want to hear my sensual voice or this guy's voice, if you want, I don't know why, but you can listen through the whole video. And this week's show, we're going to go ahead and talk about all things that just happened in the world of sports.
A lot going on.
NBA, there was a lot of things happening, some trades happening. We had some tragedies happen. In football, we had a great week. Now we have a great week coming up. We have some news coming up with football, but we're starting off today's show with God's sport, Major League.
We just lost 5
Baseball.
viewers who are very religious. We do not. Florida Man Sports does not insult any religions.
Did God not create everything? So He created baseball. This is a true sport, America's pastime. We're starting off the last game of the regular season was yesterday, ended in a thriller. Doubleheader between the Mets and the Braves. Both teams are in the playoffs, but it's any surprises for you, Chris, in terms of everything that kind of happened? We ended up with our AL top pennants of the Yankees and the Guardians, and in the National League you have the Dodgers and the Phillies. Now, my pick for that was in the spring training was the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series. Your pick was the '96 World Series repeat of the Braves and Yankees. Both teams still have a shot. You want to jump off that a little bit?
Before we jump the gun, I always want to remind you that we are streaming on all platforms, so please like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
But Johnny Cinco, the fact that my two teams are still in it, and so are yours. Let's cheers to that. That's another Florida man. Hey, even if I made it with the last game of the week, folks, I'm in. And so no, I'm not going to back down, Johnny. I'm sticking with the Braves. Even though they're losing right now, game one, I know we're recording right now live here, we're losing the game. I'm sticking with the Braves. I'm definitely sticking with the Yankees. What about you?
I mean, you got to be in it to win it. So just make it into playoffs gives you your shot.
Right.
Remember last year, the Diamondbacks made it to the World Series. They were 20 games behind the Dodgers, and they beat them to get there into the World Series. So anything can happen. There's a lot of teams in the playoffs that we weren't necessarily expecting. A lot of ones I did call. Number one, Chris, the Tigers. Yeah. How the heck did the Tigers make the playoffs? In mid-August, they had a 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. Not 2%, folks. Less than 1%.
Who gambled and made a whole bunch of money?
Nobody. You would hear about that, but nobody gambled on it. 0.2% chance to make the playoffs, and they needed so much help. Luckily for them, Seattle, the Rangers, they pooped the bed.
Mariners missed by a game.
Yeah, they needed multiple teams to collapse, and they needed to go off, and they did, mainly due to great pitching. And they took that pitching into Game 1 where they beat the Astros 3-1. Great game, staying up there. Houston Cheaters go down 1 game, hopefully. Remember, this wild card round is a 3-game series, 2 games to win, and you're done. So hopefully that continues. Other games that went down, Kansas City, we saw they beat Baltimore 1-0 in a baseball classic. If you love baseball, you love 1-0 games. They did that. Again, great pitching by Kansas City. The Mets and Brewers. The Mets, after coming off a doubleheader, have to fly then to Milwaukee, and they went ahead and dominate that game for the most part. Great one inning. They had it was just a great game. Good luck to the Mets. Braves and Padres going on right now. You mentioned that they're losing. But great baseball ahead, guys. It's my favorite time of the year. It's postseason baseball. So we'll see what happens. We get through this wild card.
And look, ultimately, too, I know we're kind of jumping ahead because the games did start today, Johnny, so rightfully so. I give you all the credit there.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's talk about what did already kind of happen because there's some newsworthy stuff there as we put the Major League regular season to bed. You got the White Sox with the worst record in Major League Baseball history.
That's ridiculous.
I'm telling you. And on the other side, you've got I know we got the Dodgers, Phillies, and Brewers already in their respective divisions, but the Braves, the Mets making it at the end. Is that like a record where 2 teams make it it on the last day? Has that ever happened before?
It has happened.
Okay.
It's not a
like
common.
it's a rarity.
It's not a common
Okay.
thing. But that was crazy how it went down here. I think there was a point where I thought that the Braves, if they lose, that they're out. They needed to win both games. But baseball recently has changed their format. There was a couple years ago they had the 1-game playoff.
Yep.
They used to have a 5-game first round. So I like the
Now it's like a
format they
3-game
have
series,
now.
I think now, yeah.
3-game series, and you jump into the divisional, then you go into pennant, obviously, and then you go into the World Series. So I like the format. Please, baseball, leave it alone.
And to wrap up for me, Johnny, the Diamondbacks not missing after going to the World Series. I know it's not a big surprise, but it's still an outlier for me. What was your biggest takeaways as far as the season goes?
Well, just speaking of the Diamondbacks, I read today that the owner of the Diamondbacks straight up, because you had said the Diamondbacks were going to do something. I said, well, they haven't done much. All they did was pick up Montgomery. Montgomery, the pitcher, he helped the Rangers win the World Series last year. He spent some time with Cardinals. The year before that was with the Yankees before Cashman traded him for a terrible player. But ultimately, for me, the owner says that Montgomery was their worst decision. That was his fault. That's just messed up. You pick up a guy, you say, that's my bad. He played like garbage. That's the reason. It's been my big mistake. But you can't just pick up one player, unless his name is Ohtani, and think that is going to impact you that much. But my biggest takeaways for this year, big highlights for me, of course, Ohtani's 50-50. I mean, while it was a tremendous
back from injury. I mean, I'm sorry. That's amazing.
You sign that kind of contract, you that kind of hype, and you actually show up and produce.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing. Judge killed it, 58 home runs. I'm more impressed with his 322 batting average because nobody's hitting 300. I think there were about 4 guys in all of baseball that hit over 300, and to hit 58 home runs and hit over 300, almost got the Triple Crown. Both Ohtani and Judge almost got the Triple Crown. So respect to that. I think this year it's clear that the MVPs are going to be Ohtani. It's going to be Judge in the AL and NL. I think the Rookie of the Year is Skeens, like the pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was amazing. So it was a fun regular season 2024 Major League Baseball here.
Yeah,
it flew by, but it was a lot of fun. But man, even day one of the postseason, it was outstanding. The last game of the regular season was outstanding. Moving into game 1 here, it's been a lot of fun, and it's just going to get better, Chris.
You know what's funny too about the regular season? While it went fast and we had a lot of fun, there is also crying in baseball, Johnny.
Yes.
You want to know why? Because the Oakland A's are done in Oakland.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, after 57 years, the Oakland A's are done, and I'm not an Oakland A's fan, but I respect the franchise. I mean, for me, growing up, dude, they were in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even mainly 70s and 80s, they were a dominant franchise. I mean, they really were. You're talking about, 4 World Series titles. You have tremendous memories of great players. For me, one of my favorite pitchers watching was Dennis Eckersley. One of the few pitchers ever to win the Cy Young and the MVP in the same year. This dude was a sidearm closer, was amazing. Of course, you have the Bash brothers with Canseco and McGuire. Canseco, the original member of the 40-40 Club. And I feel bad. Oakland, 5 years ago, had the A's, they had the Raiders, they had the Warriors in the same block. Obviously, the 2 teams shared a stadium there. And now they have nothing. And you can blame Oakland politics, which is a mess, anything California, but especially Oakland politics, but it just falls on the owner. This is what happens, guys, when an owner who inherited the team from his father is not a fan of the sport. He's a businessman. When you care more about the profits than actually going ahead and using those profits to go ahead and benefit your team, put the best product in the field. If you guys read the book or watched the movie Moneyball, you know exactly how the Oakland A's are run. The dude's a penny pincher, and that's how he ran the team. He made fake attempts to keep the team in Oakland. He had plans all along. These plans very well may fail. It's a bit of a mess what he's going on in Oakland, Chris.
So I asked for your take on it because I had a feeling that you and I were going to disagree a little bit on this. And mind you, Johnny, I'm a fan of teams that have had rough seasons. Bucks fans back in the day were hurting. The Orlando Magic have been hurting. We haven't won a championship yet.
Okay.
But you can't have your cake and eat it too. In other words, you can't right now, if you're an Oakland fan, you can't be all sad and crying because where were you to buy tickets to the game? Where were you to show support? The New York Knicks, I'll never forget this. When they were trash, they've been trash for a long time, the fans still show up. They're booing for free throws. Okay, that's a fan. So you're allowed to complain. You're allowed to say your team is pinching pennies. You're allowed to do all that. But at the end of the day, show up. And to your point, the city, you reap what you sow. You think you would have learned your lesson with the other sports. At the end of the day, in any professional sport, in the NBA Finals, there's 2 teams. In the World Series, there's 2 teams. In the NFL Super Bowl, there's 2 teams. So in other words, your team is most likely not going to make it this year. You still have to support it. So I'm okay with the decision. He's going to have success in Vegas. To your point, it is going to take like 3 years for him to get there. But I have no problem with an owner making a business decision when the fans don't show up and when the city doesn't help.
That is a bunch of nonsense, in my opinion, because what you're saying is true.
It's 100% true.
Face
100% true.
Face value.
Okay.
You're speaking as a fan who thinks, if I was an owner, what would I do? The difference is...
And that I care about my team. Can you show up?
This is where I disagree with you, bro.
Okay.
Like, for the last 30 years, since this gentleman has acquired... His dad cared about this team, invested in this team.
Sure.
This dude didn't invest in his team, spent 30 years not spending a dime. The only contract he spent, which wasn't a ridiculous contract, was Eric Chavez, 30 years ago, third baseman. That's the only time they spent money. They didn't keep Giambi. They didn't keep Johnny Damon. They didn't keep anybody of talent on this team. They got somebody developed, they get rid of them. They're doing exactly now what the Florida Marlins are doing. They're living off of the revenue sharing. That's how baseball works. Because they are profitable. He realized, I don't have to spend money on this team. I don't have to spend money to make money. He didn't care about putting a product on the field to get fans in the seat. He was already making money. He was using this as an excuse to go ahead and move the team from Oakland.
I stand by. I get what you're saying, Johnny. I do, but I'm going to stand by my statement because at the end of the day,
if you don't produce
at the end of the day, going back to the teams that sucked as a diehard fan. People still showed up, and if they didn't show up, Johnny, the city stepped up. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example. The Orlando Magic. Terrible franchise for many, many years. Did we still get an arena? Yes, we did. We still got an arena. So even though the fans were not, we were like the worst attendance for like 6-7 years, but we still were able to negotiate something for the city. I don't care if he's pinching pennies or not. It sucks that the Oakland A's are gone. People are sad. I get all that. But at the end of the day, you didn't show up. The city didn't help. It's a business decision. Period.
Orlando fans... You're saying they didn't show up. We did show up. The problem with Orlando...
So what happened was in that time is that we had low attendance, like 5-6 years of the lowest attendance, but the city still wanted the team, so we still made it work, right? So something's got to give. And so going back to this owner, you say that he had like 5 different attempts that he tried to negotiate a lease. 5 different times. You're saying that it's all BS. Well, he tried.
No,
he tried.
What you're doing is that you're falling for the BS, the little letter he wrote at the end. I tried, guys. I tried. He wrote a letter to the fans. Nobody wants to hear from the murderer. Nobody wants to hear from the murderer at the funeral. He's over here like, oh, I tried. If when you attempt something, and in business, when you negotiate something in bad faith, which is exactly what this owner did, this is the result you get. You're just seeing him as like...
Did Vegas start a hockey team? I want to know. Just want to make sure. Did they start a hockey team?
Yeah,
because they won a championship too, right?
Okay.
So did the Raiders move to Vegas?
Yes.
Sell-out crowd, new stadium,
that's not the
everything,
same
making money?
thing.
Okay, but they're making money? Okay, so then this is what's going to happen with the A's, period.
No, that's not the same thing. The Raiders didn't have a stadium to begin with. They were sharing it with the A's. So they have one. This guy's just trying to go and negotiate something that's fully, hey, the taxpayers, you guys pay all of it. I'm not splitting it with you. I want you to pay all of it. Negotiate the lease. When you try to negotiate the lease and you say, I want the same price that was 20 years ago, take it or leave it, the city's looking at this like, no, I want a fair deal. He didn't care about a fair deal. He wanted a deal that's going to benefit. He knew that they were going to say no to. So, yes, you go in to negotiate, but you negotiate in bad faith, and that's exactly what this owner did. You should be ashamed of yourself.
And now he's going to be better for it. He's a millionaire.
Whatever. I mean, he's already a millionaire. Yeah. The problem I feel, I know we've been talking about this for a long time, so I apologize to the guys that want to hear about it.
If people want to hear both points, that's
fine.
But
the problem is that you're saying this, they're going to Sacramento. They're going to be at Sacramento for 2 or 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
There haven't been a shovel, any paperwork, nothing negotiated in Vegas. This is just talking. At the end of the
day, Johnny, there's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than you and I that have this already, that have these perspectives that are not just 3 years from now. They're 10, 12, 15 years from now, so they'll be just fine.
A team in Vegas is a good idea, I get that, but to go ahead and steal this team from Oakland, it should be ashamed of themselves. It should have been just a new franchise, something new set up there. Ultimately, so this guy doesn't have a real plan in Vegas. He just wants to go to Vegas. In the meantime, being in Sacramento, he's just going along with it and hoping for the best. Baseball, the minds who run Major League Baseball should be ashamed of themselves. They should have jumped in, taken this team from this guy, just like they did to Sterling with the LA Clippers, and sell it to somebody who's going to go ahead and be
Sterling
a good
committed crimes.
owner. But
committed real crimes.
Hey. This guy,
Vegas Aces, you heard it here first.
Vegas Aces, it's like doing those things there. But, Orlando still doesn't have a team, Chris. So, or the Orlando A's.
Orlando Dreamers.
The Orlando Peaky Bonnies was a much better name.
All right.
I still stand by it. Orlando A's ain't bad. Think about it, guys.
Lord.
All right, well, Oakland obviously says goodbye to baseball. Today we get news that the Major League hit king, Pete Rose, had passed away at the age of 83. How do you remember Pete Rose, Chris?
Well, before I tell you how I remember him, John, just real fast, I know that the playoffs started today. We all know that. But he deserved more than one line at the bottom of the latest news for Major League Baseball.
Okay.
Shame on you, Major League Baseball. ESPN didn't
That's
have
a stretch.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. ESPN had nothing on him other than they did do a nice little thing at the end for him, so that's fine.
Stuff.
No, look, make no mistake. This is how he's defined, not just by me, but by people that actually played the game.
Okay.
We know he has most hits of all time, but you're talking about one of the greatest players of all time, always at the right place at the right time, played the game the right way. And I hate this because I really was one of those people that was hoping and praying that one day we would change it where he'd be a Hall of Famer. If it wasn't for the scandal, I was one of those people, always have been, always will be. And I feel like this is something that maybe another 10 or 15 years down the road is going to change, and they're going to do this after he's gone. And for that, I'm not happy about that. I take nothing away from him, right? You've got 17-time All-Star, 24 seasons. The stats speak for themselves. In the commercials that he used to do back in the day, this butt's for you, buddy.
Listen, Pete Rose is a top 10 Major League Baseball player of all time. Okay, Charlie Hustle, that dude was the man. But this is where I differ, again, from your opinion.
We can disagree. I've always felt this way, so that's fine.
With Pete Rose, and with myself being a baseball purist for the most part, but what he did, the scandal surrounding Pete Rose, for me, is much more egregious than the whole steroid scandal. The steroid scandal, I couldn't stand. It affected, obviously, the numbers in baseball. But make no mistake, if you followed baseball through the 98 season, McGwire and Sosa saved baseball. So while what they were doing was terrible, that saved the game. It increased the numbers. It changed everything. They should thank the players that are making the money they're making. Should thank McGwire and Sosa for going out and taking those steroids.
For tainting the game. Okay.
No, they definitely tainted the game, and they're paying for it by not being in the hall, certain things. But make no mistake, if that didn't happen, baseball would be in a much different place than it is today. So I have a problem with the steroid era.
But what he did was worse.
Charlie Hustle, what we did was worse. Because what he did, problem with Pete Rose, the baseball player, as great as he was, he thought he was above the game. When you are a player coach, which he was, and you were betting on baseball, not just on baseball, on your own team, what kind of cojones do you need to do something like that? If this was today where gambling is largely legal, that's still a huge no-no. Back in the day, it was illegal everywhere outside of Vegas. And this guy was still a manager betting on his own team. We had a show a couple months ago, Chris. We talked about that player that was betting in the NBA, and we were like, "This guy's a damn fool."
Sure.
But out in a lesser extent, this was the face of baseball, the hit king. He thought he played great. He played with everything. I was passionate. He thought he was bigger than the game of baseball, and he did something he should never do: gamble on baseball. It affects the integrity of the game. If Dak Prescott bet on the Cowboys while he's playing for the Cowboys, or Bill Parcells when he was coaching, you're going to be like, but you're going to give Pete Rose a pass.
I don't mean to cut you off in this, but ultimately we've talking about that segment. What we also said was that he's also one to get caught, meaning that this happens all the time.
You got caught.
Pete Rose just got caught. So let me put the logic. And first of all, we can have a whole other show about how the steroid era is not as bad as what Pete Rose did. You're saying that, and I can't believe that. But what I will tell you is this, folks. Look, at the end of the day, you've got DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, 80 to 90% of TV for the NFL, for Major League Baseball, and for basketball is predicated on the fact that they want you to gamble. So the idea now that you want to, this is why I think Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So now they can do it. It's their rules. It's their game. But no. You get caught, you get banned for life. That, to me, is a slap in the face. It's completely wrong. So if you're going to profit and make millions upon millions of dollars, have DraftKings as your sponsor, have FanDuel as that, don't sit here and tell me, number one, that it's worse than what McGwire did. Don't tell me that. And two, don't tell me that he can't get a forgiveness pass. This is something that happened, what was it, 1980? I can't remember right now, 1989.
Yes.
That he got banned. Come on, man, give me a break.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Any sport, there are problems. The steroid era was a definite problem. That's a whole other show we can discuss, which I'd be happy to. But when you affect the integrity of any sport, where you're looking at something, college sports, we've seen this, players shaving points, they were involved, quarterbacks, point guards, certain things are going to get caught, referees in the NBA, they got caught. The problem with betting is that, like anything else, gambling, you're not going to win every time. And what ends up happening is that you bet long enough, you're going to lose, you're in the hole.
We don't know how that works, Johnny.
And then you end up having to go ahead and throw. So Pete Rose, like, I didn't bet ever against the Reds.
Yeah.
Until you lose enough, and you have to.
Sure.
Until things happen.
Sure.
When you affect the integrity of the game, you're done.
Sure.
You did. I understand that in a normal day, that taking steroids is significantly worse than gambling. But when you're a professional athlete, I'm sorry, gambling is worse. And it was the only rule in baseball. You can't gamble. They allowed them to drink, to do whatever they wanted.
I appreciate your rebuttal on the fact that you make your point that you still think that this is worse than that. That's fine. But you have not answered the fact that I just told you.
Okay.
You're not punishing. It's so funny. It's like a backhanded compliment. Hey, Pete Rose, you can't do this or that. But guess what? We can have 80% of our commercials be about gambling and how you should gamble. That's
capitalism. That's capitalism, bro.
I'm all down for capitalism. Put him in the Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
That's what we're arguing here.
Well, your argument I don't agree with. It's a moot point because those commercials didn't exist in the 80s and the 70s when he was doing it. So no, it's exactly.
Do I need to explain to you how even in government laws, I don't even want to talk about those laws that weren't allowed back then, but now they are? Do you realize that? From segregation to discrimination.
You're honestly comparing gambling to segregation. You're seriously trying to compare the two.
Comparing it in the sense that before you just said back then and now. So now they're doing it, so now they need to
What I'm
forgive
saying
them.
is that you're saying that because
Jesus.
now, essentially what you're saying is because now gambling is legalized, for the most part, many states.
Is the thing that every owner is profiting off in their pocket and enabling us people that are broke for the most part to gamble and put away our money? Yes, I think so. I think the least thing that they could do is say, hey, Pete Rose, hey, those 20 plus years in Major League Baseball, here's your Hall of Fame jacket. I wish we would have done it when you were still here and when you were still alive. That
argument is so asinine because yes, they're going to make millions, if not billions of dollars off of schmucks like you and I and our faithful fans. You guys aren't the schmucks we are.
We are.
But
we agree on that.
Not the professional athletes that are deciding these games. The seconds. We always joke about it, and we're kind of half joking about it, that the refs are on the take. This is nonsense, that the Chiefs got the calls, and they do. All these things happening. But we're like, the second it's confirmed, you're telling me that Andy Reid gets confirmed by throwing games or betting on games or doing some confirmed, that all of a sudden now people are going to start, okay, once the cheating's confirmed, they're done watching it. The dude almost ruined baseball.
We can agree once again to disagree, and I'm going to leave it at this with my point. The President of the United States of America, when he's done with his second term, or maybe he doesn't win his second term, he pardons people. If the President of the free world can do that, don't tell me Major League Baseball can't pardon this man who deserves to be a Hall of Famer. I'm done with my argument.
I mean, forgiveness is always something that we should do. I understand all that. And I think for the most part, Pete Rose will be, not for the most part, the dude's recognized as a top 10 baseball player. He's still the baseball hit king. As a Hall of Famer, I think he lost his shot to be a Hall of Famer based on what he did, based on the conversation. That's just one man's opinion. Well, Chris, now normally this is the part where we kind of move on to NFL. We're excited to talk about what's coming up this upcoming week and even the fantasy aspect of it. But before we do that, we had some NBA news. Great trades happening in place, but something happened today, yesterday, that happened that we have to go and talk about, unfortunately. We just finished talking about the loss of Pete Rose. The NBA world lost a legend in Dikembe Mutombo from brain cancer at the age of 58. Way too young. What's your memories of Dikembe? Yeah.
Look, folks, it's sometimes when great people pass away, we usually have the saying that it happens in twos or threes. So it's unfortunate that this happened. And to your point, 58 years old is just salt to the wound. Look, we found out 2 years ago that he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Everybody knows the stats. Everybody knows the Hall of Fame career, the defensive prowess that this guy was. More important than all of that is the human being that he was, the humanitarian that he was, the people that, like our age group, that followed him after he retired. So they always say that the greatest people go early, and this is just another version of that, in my opinion. So he's definitely going to be greatly missed. I would imagine that the NBA at some point does something with their jerseys because he deserves it. What are your thoughts, Johnny?
Well, obviously he was one of the premier big men in the 90s. He remember him being on the Nuggets team, the first 8 seed to beat a number 1 seed in the first round there. I remember him grabbing the ball on the floor. He actually did it. They accomplished it. Of course, what you did when we referenced the after he blocked somebody, that was his move there. Dikembe was the man. I mean, he helped the Sixers get to the finals. If it wasn't for a Kobe coming into his prime and a Shaq in his prime, him and Iverson would have led the Sixers to a championship. But a great humanitarian, great man.
This, by the way, transitioned to all sports. Everybody does.
Oh
this.
yeah,
you know what this means.
And the things that everybody knows is Dikembe's. Oh, it's Mutombo's. That's the Mutombo thing there. But it's a great man. I remember that his the Cookie Monster, his voice, because that's like.
Yes.
But it was sad to see him go so young. But you will be missed, and a Florida Man Sports salutes you, Dikembe. Now, while obviously the NBA world says goodbye to Dikembe, other news happened in the NBA, Chris. The Minnesota Timberwolves are sending bags packed Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks, Chris, to the Knicks. Now, tell me about the trade, and more importantly, tell me who won this trade.
Yes. We're going to go over winners and losers. I love that you're bringing that up. But look, folks, I want to because we are streaming on all platforms, remind you guys that to the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm open for hire. If you need a general manager, I'm your guy. Like, listen,
I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Because I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, you can't even say it with a straight face, bro.
Okay, good.
First, let's go back to the previous trade. What was the previous trade, Johnny?
Minnesota's?
Yes, the previous trade. Where they got fleeced for not
for
Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert?
They traded a bunch of players and 4 first-round picks. Okay. I just want to throw that out there that the Jazz received that for Rudy Gobert. So number one, this trade proves that trade was worthless completely because you're not going to just have them for 2 seasons together and say, oh, well, the Rudy Gobert was a good trade. Sorry. Second of all, this is probably the big one. This is the team that beat Denver.
Don't mind me.
This is the team. That's what you get. This is the team that beat the team that won the championship the prior year. And the Minnesota GM is like, nah, I'm just blow it up. That makes a lot of sense. So again, if you haven't already figured it out, Johnny, the winner for me in this 120% is the New York Knicks. What you basically have lost is depth. And guess what? Now people are going to want to play for you. So veterans are going to want to play cheap, and you'll fill that back up.
I was
no problem.
so confused.
So the Knicks are winners here for me 100%. And the losers.
I mean, of course,
the Minnesota,
the other team,
the Minnesota Timberwolves,
yeah.
and the trade, Julius Randle. This guy gave his heart to New York, and he was expecting a max contract. He was expecting max money from the Knicks. Do you think the Timberwolves are going to give it to him? Come on, man.
Well, a couple things. One, let's focus on who won the trade. Obviously, if I hear one person tell me Minnesota won this trade, then I know they know nothing about basketball. The Knicks won this trade.
100%.
Dude, they get rid of an injury-prone Randall. And Vincenzo, whatever, is a great shooter, but he's just like a role player.
Yeah.
The Knicks pick up a big man who can shoot a 3. And you're kidding me? The Dominicano is coming back to Washington Heights.
28 years old.
So a young dude, outstanding move by the Knicks, which would allow Brunson going ahead and taking less, allow things like this to happen. But this trade happened. You want to knock Minnesota.
Oh, 100%.
From everything.
100%.
From everything that I've read here, Minnesota had to make this move. They would have had to have moved Naz Reid and Alexander just to keep cap his financial reasons.
Can I say a little something about that real quick?
Okay.
They wouldn't have done that if they wouldn't have had Gobert. So I'm just saying that's my point. That's my point. If you don't do that, which when that happened, I disagree with the trade altogether. Now you put yourself in this position, so you reap what you sow. Go ahead.
I'm fine with teams making a move. Rudy Gobert at the time was like 3-year running defensive player of the year. His game, they took advantage of. They lost because everybody they knew, yes, if you go to the paint, that dude's dangerous. Outside the paint, he is useless. He's a statue. And that's exactly why they lost, exactly why they didn't get to where they thought they were going to go. But they made the move. Stop knocking. They made a move. It didn't work out. And now obviously financial reasons forced them. They had to make a move. They needed to get rid of Cap because they know they couldn't have made that. Trust me, I guarantee you they would have much rather did that same move with Gobert. But on the Knicks are not dumb. They're like, nah, we don't want Gobert.
Which is why I go back to that I'm open for business if they want to hire me as GM. Look, at the end of the day, Johnny, not only do they lose Towns in this trade, but they lose 4 first-round picks. It's just terrible. It's terrible. And if you're Anthony Edwards, how do you feel?
The first-round picks, obviously, will go Bird. That's done. You can't live in the past, Chris. That happened. It's done with. Okay?
Together.
It's done. There's every premier player in the NBA gets traded for 3 or 4 for first-round picks. That's just what it is. So, obviously, the NBA is only 2 rounds, so that's not unheard of. That's the norm for premier players. So stop beating them over the head, saying you gave up 4 picks. That happened. This move right here, listen, it could benefit both teams. Obviously, it's going to go ahead and benefit the Knicks more. But if Randall stays healthy and listen, Chesmo can actually shoot the 3 and do everything like he did with the Knicks, they needed that off the bench. Maybe he can start. I don't know. But either way,
they probably think it's good enough for the Timberwolves.
The Knicks won this deal. The Knicks just went ahead. The power rankings go up way high. Obviously, for me, still, I already had the Knicks high. Now they're still Boston Celtics, the number 1 team in the East, if not all of the NBA. Number 2 team in the East, clearly, at this point, is the New York Knicks.
To your point, Johnny, the nice thing about this and about this episode specifically, Cinco, is that we're talking baseball, basketball, which means basketball is right around the corner, so it's the perfect time.
Yes, sir.
And I'm excited about that. But, Johnny, let's go to our bread and butter here because here at Florida Man Sports, we give you everything. Now we're going to jump to football where I'm very happy to say Thursday Night Football, the Bucs kick us off, Johnny Cinco. The Bucs won last week. They're 3-1. They're taking on the Falcons. Falcons are at home. Who's got this one?
Man, this was a really difficult game for me to pick. Now, here we did well in our picks. At least one of us did. So we always want to go ahead. I wanted to look at this, and I'm like, man, Atlanta played a really good game last week. Tampa played really well right now. They're playing in Atlanta. Who is winning this game?
That's everything I said.
I'm telling you, it's just me thinking out loud because this was a game I'm still dwelling on. So for me, I really like the way Baker Mayfield's playing right now. So while you know how high I am with the Atlanta Falcons this upcoming week, somehow in Atlanta, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are winning this game. Side note, props to Mike Evans becoming the highest, the point champion, whatever is the lead.
Most points by a team.
Most points, I think, the third non-kicker.
Correct.
To lead his team in points. Correct. So props to him. Mainly that news maybe kind of got me because this game was so close. I mean, Koo had that ridiculous kick at the end of the last game to win it, the game winner. Tampa, it just looked dominant against the Eagles. So that's why I'm going to go off a team that's looking more dominant. I like Baker Mayfield big time in this game. This game is always close, guys. I don't throw out the records. Falcons, Bucs are always close. And normally I want to defer to the home team, but for some reason I got to go with my gut. Bucs are winning this game. To
Johnny Cinco's point, folks, you can't miss with one of us. So like week 2 and 3, I was killing it. Week 4, I give it to Johnny. So definitely one of us you get to choose here is going to have a heck of a week. And that person's going to be me, Johnny. I'm actually going to go undefeated this week.
Okay.
And here's the deal. I'm always going to give it to you straight. It was an impressive win by the Bucs. The Falcons, the 2 games that they've won, Johnny, we've watched these games. The fourth quarter, last minute comebacks. It's going to happen again. Falcons are going to win this game.
Oh, my
Give me the
God.
Listen, I said last week there's a 7-game stretch before the bye that are tough. They needed to.
I can't have a look at
I
this.
said they needed to beat Philly. They did. Mm-hmm. And now they're going to lose to Atlanta, but we're going to pay them back at home in a couple of weeks.
Are you done?
Falcons win.
Okay, you done?
Done.
Okay. Good.
As the schedule goes, we always like to do the Florida teams first, Johnny Cinco.
So
and you've got the Jaguars. They're at home, but they're 0-1 at home. They're taking on the Colts. Who's got this?
Jaguars lose.
Yeah, the Joe Flacco effect is real.
Dude, Flacco's back. I forgot Flacco was back. Mike Flacco comes back. Old man Flacco holds it down.
The effect is real. Jacksonville is at home. They are desperate for a win, but that's not going to happen here. To your point, we both agree here.
Can you fire Peterson already?
3-2. This one is over. Coach is gone.
Yo, is Trevor Lawrence the I guess the first ever bust who gets a $200 million contract immediately? That dude's a bust. I'm done. Listen, he very well could be good. but he's not going to be good under the Jacksonville. We've seen before things happen.
It's funny, and I know sidebar. We want to keep going in the period, but sidebar. You and I had talked about before that he had what's the coach from college? Gators coach. Drawing a blank on his name.
No. Well,
you gave him a pass because of what happened there.
Urban Meyer.
With Urban Meyer, thank you. You gave him a pass because of what happened with Meyer. And now you're saying he's a bust. Because remember, you're like, oh, this doesn't count. Peterson's going to fix him.
Listen, guys, we've seen examples. I know we're gonna get to the picks, but now you got me going. You got me going.
The fans, you're wrong.
You got me going. No. It's the thing is that we've seen with Sam Darnold. You've seen with certain Baker Mayfield, to where it's so important the organization and the coach that you have there.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, you can go ahead and be in a position that you stuck to too long, and you could have been great, but now it's too late.
Before we go to the next team, so give Trevor Lawrence a third chance with another QB, yes, or another coach, yes or no?
Well, they gave him $250 million. They have to. They have to. This isn't
saying.
Bryce Young. They paid this man.
Just saying.
How are you going to pay this? This is ridiculous. They paid him. Why did they pay him? They didn't need to.
Now you thought it was a great deal a couple episodes ago.
No, I didn't.
Check tape.
Okay, sure.
Moving on to the third team here in Florida Man Sports, the Dolphins. Johnny, we know what's going on with the Dolphins. We know about the injuries. They're going to Gillette Stadium, taking on the Patriots. Patriots are 0-1 at home. 0-1. Who's got this one?
Okay, these are two bad teams. You're much higher on New England. They come down to earth. Yeah. It's like, okay, New England's not very good. Miami is atrocious. Miami, I've told you, guys like Chris or Dog and Tua, or anybody can throw to Hill and Waddle. Yeah, we've seen how anybody can throw to Hill and Waddle. No, they can't. I talked to you that Hill and Waddle need accurate. Who led the league in accuracy last year? Tua. So you got the haters like this guy say, Tua's garbage, Tua's trash. He led the league in accuracy. The numbers they get is because of a guy like Tua. Skylar Thompson, whoever the heck Henley, whatever the third string guy is. You saw Hill in the game. You watched that game. Hill was open, beat his guys downfield so many plays. They couldn't get it to him. They couldn't get the timing routes are off.
Who's got this game?
You haven't figured it out, Chris?
Who's got this game, Don?
You haven't figured it out? The Patriots are going to win. One of the few victories are going to win this game in New England because Miami is horrible without Tua.
Okay. And by the way, the argument that we made with Tua was that any quarterback that's a starting quarterback can do better than Tua. That was the argument.
Why are you adding little things?
It's the truth. Nobody
I
said
said because it's starting. Nobody said that. Nobody said that.
Anyways, I'll keep it short and sweet. This is an ugly game alert, folks. You already know this. The Dolphins are a train wreck. One more week isn't going to help them. Patriots are going to be 2-3 when this is over. We both pick the Patriots. As far as the rest of the schedule goes, you got the Jets, Johnny.
I can't believe you picked against the Bucks. Oh my! And the division foe. I'm emailing Tampa.
This is Florida Man Sports.
I'm going to email the Buccaneers.
I'm always going to keep it honest. I'm always going to get, and I'm going undefeated this week.
Was it because of the email that the Bucs sent you?
I'm going undefeated. Okay. I'm going undefeated this week. Jets and Vikings, folks, where the Vikings are the home team. The Vikings are 4-0, Johnny. The Jets are 2-2. I want to remind you before I get your prediction. This game is in London, 9:30 in the morning Eastern. Who's got this game?
Now, those London games, as we know, you have to be careful with. Yes. Terrible teams win in London. Jacksonville loves London because they don't lose over there. But looking at the Jets, you realize that the Jets and the Giants is the first time ever both teams played. Neither one of them had a touchdown last week. Neither one of them. If you saw Aaron Rodgers and the Jets lose to a terrible Denver Broncos team with a 10-9, it was atrocious. Now, while I like to look at the terrible team in London, Minnesota's too good. That defense, Sam Darnold, leading the league in touchdown passes, the only quarterback, multiple touchdown passes every game. Vikings, baby, Vikings.
Hey, look, the one thing that I will agree with you is that strange things happen when you're in London. And you know what? I got to give, and I know we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but I got to give the Denver Broncos so much credit. I don't care if you're winning ugly. Nah. Winning is winning. Hey, winning is winning. You beat the Bucs.
Sean Payne's over
you beat the Jets. Winning is winning. That's going to help that rookie quarterback. So kudos to them. And now, as far as this game goes, folks, strange things happen there. The Jets are going to win this game. The Vikings, kudos to being 4-0. You're going to have Darnold, who's going to play like his old self.
He's playing against his former team. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. He's gonna rue the day. The Jets get this win. The Jets are going to be 3-2. They're going to do what the Bucs did. They had a horrible game against the Broncos, then they bounced back. Give me the Jets to win.
I would agree with you. It's just the Minnesota defense, the number one defense right now in fantasy. They just look good, man.
Yeah, but it's
they
London,
just
baby.
Look
it's
good.
London. We'll see. You got the Bears, Johnny, where the Bears were first two games, you're like, what is going on with Williams?
Didn't the Vikings come from?
And now they're 2-2. What's that?
Didn't the Vikings come from Europe? So maybe the actual Vikings. Well, I don't know.
The last two games, the Bears actually played well. The Bears are 2-0 at home.
Yes,
they're taking on the Panthers, who they've won one and lost one. Now that they made the change at quarterback, who do you got in this one?
Surprisingly, I can't believe I'm saying this there, but no, I like Andy Dalton and the Panthers.
Wow.
Like, I like them right now. Not to do anything tremendous, but Andy Dalton is producing. Chicago's defense isn't bad. I have no faith in Caleb Williams. You're telling me that the defense somehow is going to win them another game, going to go in and have to. Defense, this isn't the Ray Lewis Ravens. This isn't the Warren Sapp Bucks. You can't ask a defense to do so much of that work over and over and over again. I like the way Carolina's running the ball with Hubbard. I like the way Aaron Dalton's playing. And I don't have any faith that Caleb Williams can actually go ahead and move the ball downfield and do anything offensively. So, for those reasons, Carolina's beating the Bears.
Andy Dalton. Look, folks.
What did I say?
Aaron Dalton.
I did?
At the end of the day, folks.
Aaron.
At the end of the day, I give kudos to the Panthers for making the change. Good job to the coach, former offensive coordinator for the Bucks. At the end of the day, the Bears are the better team. I feel like Caleb Williams is going to go ahead and try to play a little bit of redemption here. He is at home. The Bears are going to win this one. And we have disagreed on more games already, so I can already tell you guys need to listen to me. I'm going to go winning streak undefeated this week.
One small correction from the reports I read, this actually was not a coaching move. Remember that last game that Bryce Young played in, 7 first downs all game, looked so bad. The owner, remember they brought this coach in. This coach is the quarterback guru. He fixed Baker Mayfield. They brought him in to fix Bryce Young. Do you think after doing that he's going to go to the owner and say, hey, I can't win with this guy? You brought you in. So the reports I read was that the owner actually went and said, make the change. I'm tired of looking at terrible football. And that's what it is here. So don't get props to the owner. To the coach.
The coach already told me that they made that up, so that would happen that way, so the coach can save face because it's his first year.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the coach said he did it, and the coach said I made it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're gonna make it, why would you go and then on record say I made it up? You would just keep your mouth shut. You wouldn't even do it in the first place.
Told me because I get more.
Oh, you talked to him. Yeah. Okay, personally, I got you. I'm sorry, I didn't follow along. No, my bad. Go ahead.
You got the Ravens and the Bengals, Johnny. The Bengals are at home. The Bengals won. They're 1-3 now, but they are 0-2 at home. The Ravens are getting hot at the right time. Who's taking this one?
It's time. I get it. They won, but this Cincinnati team is too good to just be falling off this hard. The Ravens team is good. I get that. The Ravens and the Bengals are always a good game, divisional game. It's always on point.
Absolutely.
High-scoring game. I'm telling you that the Bengals, Burrow's going to figure it out. Bengals win this game.
Man, I can't believe we keep disagreeing, man. You and I are watching different tape. Look, at the end of the day, the Ravens won ugly last week, but they won. They are so much better than last week's game showed. I understand that the Bengals are hungry and desperate at 1-3. At the end of the day, the Ravens are going to win this one. Look for Zay Jones to bounce back tremendously, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I will give you this. It's always a high offensive game, so you could argue that it could go either way. The Ravens are the better team. They're winning this one.
That's the only reason, because they're going to be forced to pass a lot more. I'm looking at Joe Burrow, the passer, to beat Lamar, the passer. Henry is not going to be able to go ahead and just bulldoze and do the same thing he's been doing.
You catch the ball, short routes.
I get it. I understand all that. But since I think this is going to be more of a shootout, I'm going to take Burrow over Lamar Jackson.
I'll take the Ravens. Speaking about teams that are surprising us, Johnny, the Commanders are 3-1. New coach, 3-1, taking on the Browns, who are just imploding in front of us. What do you got in this one?
I mean, Watson is nobody feels bad because we all laugh at Watson and the Browns for making the moves. They're regretting what they did to Baker Mayfield, and they could have had him watch it, and they went ahead and did him dirty, not because you make the move, but how they did it. And they want to give this guy all the guarantee. You guys are fools. Your desperation showed, and you're paying the price for it. You reap what you sow. Enjoy it, Browns. But come on. Jaden Daniels is the truth. He's real. That dude just had a record. He had a whole game. He threw 90%. I think he went the whole month. Threw 90% completion percentage. We should have known the dude was super accurate with LSU. He has his legs. Dude, Commanders, out of nowhere, look like the best team in their division. Commanders will win this game.
It's funny, too, that it also came out talking about breaking news that the Commanders actually had Daniels ahead of Caleb Williams in their draft board, rightfully so, looks like. So they're reaping the benefits.
It's a second year in a row, and the second pick looks like it's better than the first
overall.
No,
I'm going to tell you right now, I'll do you one better. Daniels is a offensive rookie of the year. I don't see how. Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, you're right. Look, at the end of the day, the Browns got to make a decision. They're going to lose this game. I'm taking the Commanders to win, but they got to make a decision. You can't see teams like the Commanders bounce back the way they're doing right now and still watch what you're doing, the product that you have on the field when you're the Browns. So either it's Watson, I know he's got all that guaranteed money, I don't care, fire the coach, or do something. They're even talking about Watson having a burner phone and texting during halftime. That's how bad and how toxic this team is. So Commanders win. Browns, please do something. If they do one thing for me, because he's on my team, trade Cooper. That's all I'm saying.
I think it goes without saying that if they don't have the year that only the Browns think they're going to have, we all know the Browns are going to go ahead and not have a good year. But
wow, that's terrible.
That the coach is going to be gone.
Yeah.
They're stuck with Watson. This isn't unlike any other contract.
Well, then make the move, Johnny. Then make the move. That's all I'm saying.
But no. It doesn't matter because firing the coach isn't going to fix the problem. You're already paying. So this is business decisions. I'm going to ride it out because it is what it is. They didn't give him an extension. I believe this is last year. Next year's his last year in his contract. So they're going to ride it out this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. They'll fire him, and they'll figure it out. Add the Browns to the Belichick watch. I know you referenced before that as a possibility. I don't see the Belichick going back over there. I see him making a move for the Jersey teams, either the Giants, Jets, or Jacksonville Jaguars. You know where I'm at. So it depends on what Belichick feels like is new. But the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to give him all the power. People are saying the Cowboys, but come on, man.
No.
Jerry Jones ain't giving up that power. It ain't happening there.
Yeah.
But
those four teams are good.
Washington Commanders will win this game.
And talking about the next game kind of goes back to, and I'm not trying to beat up on the Browns, Johnny, but look at the Bills and the Texans. The Bills who traded away all their receivers but are still 3-1, and the Texans who got the second-round pick and they're 3-1, right? I'm sorry, Browns, this is the fact. They're both going against each other. The Texans are at home where they're 2-0. Who do you got in this one?
Well, Buffalo, they were undefeated before last week, so they got their first loss here. And while they went on a nice run, they're starting to look at the team that we expected them to be, and I expect them to lose 2 in a row. Houston Texans are winning this game against Buffalo.
Okay. I got some major breaking news, and if you're still following with us, please like, share, stream on all platforms. You ready for the breaking news?
Okay, sure.
Okay. Both of these teams are the two most overrated teams in the NFL as of right now. They are the most overrated teams. I look at before I give you predictions, I look at who they played. Just real quick.
Yeah, then that's a hot
just
take.
Real quick.
It's a hot
just
take,
real
man.
Quick.
It's a hot take.
Okay.
No breaking news.
Bills week 1, anything can happen. They beat Arizona, anything can happen. They beat Miami with the injured quarterback. They beat Jacksonville. We know how they are. And they've lost to the Ravens. And then when you look at the Texans, again, week 1, they win against Indiana, which was having a bad year. They beat Chicago, bad team.
Yes.
They get rocked by Minnesota, and they beat Jacksonville. So you got two teams that are 3-1. But I feel like
they're a fake 3-1.
Thank you. So we can agree on that. And again, I'll make it short and sweet. Texans are going to stay undefeated as well. I agree with you there. Texans are going to win at home. You got the Raiders, Johnny, and the Broncos. Again, I mentioned the Broncos. They won back-to-back nail-biting games, hard-won games. They're taking on the Raiders. The Broncos are at home. Who do you got?
Man, the Broncos are so terrible and somehow find a way to win. They win these ridiculous baseball score games. And it's like, what the heck? And the Raiders have their own mess. Obviously, the news broke today that there's now finally, Chris, he's been saying it since preseason last year.
I'm glad I was going to bring it up.
They're going to trade him. They're going to trade Devontae Adams is going to go ahead and he's on the shopping block. They're asking for a number 2 plus some extras. So finally, Chris, congratulations. I told you, you're that guy from that movie, Along Came Polly, that just shoots the rock and calls it every time.
Rain dance.
And then one time it goes in and you call, I got it.
Raindrops. Old school. T.
So, no.
That's fine.
Even with that being said.
I'll take your backhanded compliment that you like to give every show.
That being said, I'm not giving you any compliment. I'm saying you can be calling. You call it for 35 straight weeks, and it finally happens, and it's like, all right, look, I told you I was right. Raiders will win this game. Denver is terrible.
Oh my God.
Raiders are not as bad as you say they are. There's some dysfunction.
Wow.
Big surprise with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. But I don't care. This Denver team is not good. They're not a good team. Their defense is. Bo Nix, which you were so high on, Bo Nix threw for 90-something yards. 90-something yards. Bo Nix is terrible. Bo Nix is very much going to be Jameis Winston without the yards. He's not. Wow. He just does some crazy stuff, and he's just not the guy. No, I'm sorry. I know big Oregon guys like to listen to this sometimes, and they talk about Bo Nix, how great. He was good in college. He's not going to be good in the NFL, and he's not good with the Broncos. They find a way to win, much like the Bears, through their defense. It's just not going to happen against the Raiders.
The one knock that, since you're talking about Bo Nix, I'll start there. The one knock that Bo Nix has is that the touchdowns haven't come just yet. Yeah, the one. Because 660 yards right now from a rookie quarterback, because the rookie class, other than Daniels, is not very good, Johnny. You know, you've got McCarthy, that's hurt. So, and of course we know what Williams has done. So the idea that you're saying
that's the norm.
The idea that you're saying here that Nix is a bust, 660 yards.
I didn't say he was a bust.
He's doing just fine. He's number 2 as far as quarterbacks go right now, rookie quarterbacks. Now, as far as this game goes, when you're talking about,
it's like 3 playing.
As far as this game goes,
he's number 2 out of 3.
Well, I mean. He is.
Okay, that sounds like a positive. But hey,
you got to remember, McCarthy was in the equation. We don't know because he got injured. But one of the things that we talked about was, and I had said, was that he was going to be better than Caleb Williams. And so far, I'm right. So you can say whatever you want. So far, he's playing better than Williams. I'll leave that at that.
No, I disagree with you. Okay, I'll take Caleb Williams with Bo Nix.
Okay.
No, he's playing better. No, but what has Bo Nix done?
They've got the same.
He did not contribute to the victory. He's not the reason the team won.
We're making the show, but we're sticking to predictions. They're both 2-2, the Bears and the Broncos.
He gets mad when I get off topic.
No, because we're predictions. They're waiting for the predictions. So this is going to be an ugly game.
Slow down. We're good.
This is going to be an ugly game. We agree on that, 100%.
Okay.
Except for the fact that the Raiders. Look, this is like the stock market. The Raiders are 2-2. The Broncos are 2-2, but the Raiders are trending down, especially with that trade that you already mentioned. And the Broncos are trending up. Bo Nix is going to get it together. Give me the Broncos to stay to win their first win at home. They're going to be 1-1 at home.
All right, man.
They'll be 3-2 after this.
You're going rocket speed. Where's Adams going, Chris? He's going to be traded. Where's Adams going?
New Orleans.
He's going to New Orleans.
Yeah. Remember, I'm the one that said that he's going to get traded, and I was right. He's going to be a Saint.
No, you can't say that you're right, Chris.
Listen,
you can't say that you're right when you've been saying it for 40 weeks, man.
Where are you going?
He's going to the Jets. It's clear. For some reason, you're going to go ahead and say he's going to New Orleans. He already tried the Derek Carr experience. Didn't work out. So he's obviously going to go back to – the dude regrets leaving Green Bay. If that fool had stayed with Green Bay, he would have Jordan Love as his quarterback, and his numbers would be tremendous. And he left over there because his boys from college. It didn't work out. It worked out in college. Didn't work out in the pros. And now you went ahead and you're stuck with this mediocrity there in the Raiders.
Unfortunately, my counterpart that loves to rant, if you haven't figured it out by now, is in the belief that he's playing Madden at home right now. And he's going to go to the Jets. You know, it's very hard for people to trade within their own conference. So no, he's going to go to the NFC.
And the own division, own conference now.
He's going to go to the NFC. He's going to be a Saint, and we can agree to disagree on that.
He's going to go to whoever offers him the best deal, and I think the Jets are going to offer him the best package because they're trying to win now.
Of course they are. We all know that.
And if you just saw the game, which we're going to get into with the Jets game there, it's kind of like no, I'm sorry, it's not happening. They need a receiver. The receivers they have in place aren't working for them.
Whereas my argument for the Saints, short and sweet, is that they overachieved the first 2 games, 40-plus games, and they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're much better than they thought they would be. They're going to see that Adams is that missing piece, and the quarterback that played with Adams is going to get him there.
So let me ask you a question, Chris, then. So are you ready to admit that you were wrong about Olave?
What are you talking about?
You're saying the Saints need a wide receiver. Are
you
ready to admit that Olave's trash, like I said, which you were so high on? Are you ready to admit?
Please do not twist my words. I never said that. And I'm gonna be very clear. We said, where's Adams going to go? That doesn't mean that he needs to go to the Saints. That means that the Saints are going to want him because of Carr. There's a huge difference. And I'm going to tell you something.
So the answer is no.
No. The answer is Chris Olave is still wide receiver 1. He should be in your lineup, and he's been rewarding fantasy owners.
Shahid is the reward.
No, he's not. He made an egg last week, Johnny.
Olave rewarded you 1 week.
Johnny,
Olave rewarded you 1 week.
In all platforms, but
Shahid was Shahid was like a 7th round, 8th round pick.
Listen. Now you're jumping to fantasy. The fans want us to keep going with the predictions, but I'm going to tell you right now, what I said about Adams being a Saint is not because of Olave. It's because of Derek Carr and because of their overachieving this season.
They tried it.
Stop trying to change the narrative to what's convenient for you. The Cardinals and 49ers, Johnny, the 49ers are at home. They are 2-0. They did win last week. We're kind of surprised that they're 2-2. Who's winning this one?
It's not always given like we thought it would be that the San Francisco 49ers are going to win week in and week out.
I just realized, and I know why I speak so fast, because you stress me out.
I can tell. I'm enjoying it. I'm over here like, I see this guy getting stressed. I'm
trying to keep the show under an hour. And
Why?
All right, go ahead. Who do you got?
It's like I said, guys, a reminder, if you like to hear the sensual voice continue and talk, you can listen to the whole show nonstop, no problem. if you rather go ahead and just cut through exactly to where the subject matter you want to listen to, and the timestamps are in the description, go right ahead here. So this guy is over here. I see the frustration.
And if you haven't
him.
tuned us
And
out
it's-
already because he is going abundantly slow, please tune in. Do look at those headlines, and let's move ahead.
That frustration
who do you
is
got?
so enjoyable for me.
40. Well, I mean, it's good. You lose every debate, so I'm glad that you're happy.
Okay.
49ers, Cardinals. 49ers are at home. Who do you got?
Like I was saying, guys, welcome back to
Oh, my
Florida
God.
Man Sports. Here we are with the late night show here. Let's go ahead and talk about the San Francisco 49ers, Chris, and the Arizona Cardinals.
Your one fan has decided to walk away.
The Arizona Cardinals, while they have tremendous talent, we expected big things from Murray, and he's shown some flashes here. I can't count on them to beat the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming week. I have San Francisco winning against this not consistent Arizona Cardinals team.
Yeah, ultimately, I think maybe next week we'll have an episode of like most disappointing teams because it's appropriate now that we're a few games in. But I can tell you right now, the Cardinals are going to be right there at 1-3. You're way better than that as far as your team and on paper and all that good stuff. The Niners are getting things rolling. They're getting hot at the right time. Niners are going to be 3-2 after this one. You got the Packers and the Rams, where the Rams are undefeated at home. They're 1-0, but here's the bad news: they're 1-3 on the season. Who's got this one?
Man, the Rams are a good team if it wasn't for those damn injuries. I mean, they really are. Maybe they can. This is a type of team that's dangerous. They can make a run later on in the season. They get into the playoffs. Look out! I'm not saying they're winning the Super Bowl, but they can. This is a type of team that can knock out a contender. So that being said, the Green Bay Packers are winning this. Jordan Love with one leg looked amazing. That dude started off slow, one leg. He's getting healthier. This Packers team, the defense, overall structure, that's why I said, man, Adams regrets leaving the Packers. He should have stayed there. They offered him the extension, and he chose to go to the Raiders. Bonehead move.
Play with Derek Carr.
Yeah, and it didn't work out. That's why he's not doing it again. It didn't work out for him. Green Bay Packers will win this game.
Yeah, ultimately I've got the Packers too, but for those reasons that you mentioned and then some, at the end of the day, you got to keep up with Detroit and you got to keep up with Minnesota because they're overachieving on the season. So this is a must-win for the Packers. So yeah, Packers are definitely.
I don't know if it's a must-win.
It is.
It's a must-win.
When you're looking at the division and you have
must-win.
You have 3 teams in the division. You have an undefeated Vikings team. This is a must-win game. Packers are beating the Rams.
Okay.
Yeah, you got the Giants and the Seahawks, where the Seahawks finally went down to earth. They actually lost the game. We both predicted that they were going to lose that game. They're 3-1, but they're 2-0 at home. They're taking on the Giants. Who do you got?
That was surprising. Not the fact that they lost the game, we picked it, but that Levis goes out early and still with the backup, they find a way to win. But props to Tennessee and McDonald to make the adjustment. McDonald made some adjustments for Seattle and actually made it a tight game, a close game. So Seattle's a good team. They're playing the Jersey Giants, who didn't score a touchdown at all last week. Why do you expect the Giants to win this game? They're playing in Seattle, are they not? They're playing in Seattle.
They're playing in Seattle.
They're playing in Seattle.
And the Seahawks lost last week, but they didn't play Miami.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, Miami.
But,
the Titans played Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying the Seahawks played the Lions.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that like they're playing, even if they weren't playing anywhere, but especially because of the fact they're in Seattle,
Okay.
Seattle's winning this game. So I go to you to back me up, and you messed me
Well,
up. Chris.
I don't know. Your fans don't know what you're talking about.
They're
Folks,
playing Seattle, right? And they messed me up.
They're playing in Seattle, but before you were like you're talking about the Dolphins. Anyways, look, last week I called the Seahawks that they were gonna lose, and they lost. At the end of the day, I'm gonna agree with you here, Johnny. Lumen Field is Lumen Field. The fans are the best out there, and the Seahawks are gonna win this game.
The best out there.
They are. They're loud. They're as loud as can be, and
That's
ultimately,
nonsense.
the other part of this is this: the Giants. You're 1-3. I expect maybe another thing with the coach there happening. We'll see after they lose this one. You got the Cowboys, Johnny. They're going to be the away team here. They're taking on the Steelers, who also now finally lost the game. Fields, even though the coach doesn't want to admit it, he's the starting quarterback at this point. The Steelers are at home where they're 1-0. Who's taking this one?
I mean, Fields finally did enough to warrant the starting position. It wasn't that he was just dragging along. He wasn't doing anything producing, but he won the game last week.
He's been improving.
So, the 3 touchdowns, he won that game with his legs, his arm. He's not making mistakes. Come on. You don't make a move when you're winning. As long as you're winning, you're not making any moves. As long as he continues to win. I feel bad because I still think that Russell Wilson's the better quarterback. He gives them the better chance to win. But unfortunately, he was injured beforehand. He had the shot. That's what happens. Your best ability is availability. And ask Drew Bledsoe how that worked out for him with the Patriots there. So I think similar situation. Good luck to the kid. Hopefully, it looks like Russell Wilson, unless something happens, is going to have an opportunity with another team next year. It's early, but it looks like it's going to be that way.
Need you to slow down, Johnny. Need you to slow down a little bit. because the Steelers actually lost last week. They didn't win.
Oh,
it
my
was
bad.
it was their first. It's okay,
Oh,
buddy.
no.
Catch your breath. Catch your breath.
What I meant was that stat-wise, he actually showed up. He did his thing there.
He did.
So with the 3 touchdowns, he had a good game. I was looking at his fantasy points. I was like, hey, Justin Fields kind of did well.
He did in fantasy. He did.
So
a lot of people
what I meant was that, like, he wasn't the reason for them to lose. He did everything he could to win. It just ended up being what it was.
I love it when I get them all shook up. Listen, folks, this is game.
I didn't make my pick yet.
Breathe.
I wanted to go ahead and talk. So you're going to let me make my pick here. So thank you. So one with Pittsburgh, they're playing in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, Chris, right?
Yes, they are.
So you got that right, finally?
Yeah.
Okay, so Pittsburgh, is he going to win it? Dallas, let's see, Chris. Give me a second to think back and think for a second.
Oh, Lord. I promise you guys, we're a real show. I promise you, if you're still tuned in, this is a real show.
Pittsburgh still has Roethlisberger, right? Dallas Cowboys are winning this game. Dallas Cowboys are going to find a way to win because that's how the NFL wants it to kind of go down here. They don't want the Cowboys to get too far up. They're just good enough to win against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
This game is Game of the Week 3.0. This is why I feel like, there's 3 good games this week. This is why I feel like I'm going to run the table this week and why I'm going to do
it.
I'm predicting right now. I'm getting a little ahead, but probably get 13 or 14 wins this week. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, the Steelers are going to win this one. You can bet the house on it if you want. Don't bet. I'm just kidding.
Said it. It's out there.
It's not just because Fields is playing so much better. It's because I've actually seen the Cowboys games. The Cowboys are 2-2, and their wins, they're not against good opponents. Go back and look at the record. They've got 2 wins and 2 losses. The Steelers are the better team all around. They're undefeated at home, and it's going to continue. As far as the week goes, Johnny, we wrap up with Monday Night Football, where the Saints are on the road. They're taking on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are still undefeated, Johnny. Who's winning this one?
Listen, I want to pick the Saints. I really do. The Saints look good. They have a team that can beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City's playing at home. The Kansas City Chiefs, unlike any other team, has the ref in their back pocket. I don't care. This goes as everybody's finally on board. As much hate as the Patriots and the Brady got over his career is nothing like what we've seen here with Mahomes and the Chiefs. There's no way they're going to allow the Saints to go ahead and beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Kansas City to win this game.
So, to your point, Johnny, the Chiefs are 4-0, but I mean, it's fair to say, if with all those calls, they should be 2-2. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, they did win a couple of games that they earned, but they should be 2-2. I also want to say that the Saints are going to win. Who'd you pick, you said?
I picked the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs.
Okay.
I picked the Chiefs because the Saints should win this game. Their team is good enough. The refs won't allow it.
I want to say the Saints. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but again, I'm going to be right all week, and the Chiefs are going to win. They're going to be 3-0 and stay undefeated, Johnny Cinco. Those are the picks and predictions for this week, folks. Again, I want to remind you guys that either you put up with us back and forth through all these predictions, that if not one week or the other, him and I, we get hot. So definitely pay attention to those picks. Speaking of picks and predictions, Johnny, you've got the fantasy football in week 5, and you got the waiver wire. So who's at the top of your list? Who's that waiver wire pickup that somebody needs so they can win this week?
All right, guys, please listen to my advice. If you listened to me last week, I gave you Bucky Irvin. I talked to you about, guys, pick up Bucky. Some other fool I know told me that against Philadelphia's defense, are you crazy? He showed up, he did his thing, and he's going to continue to produce for you moving forward. It's not. He gave you a touchdown, gave you points. He was in double. I want to say he got 12 to 14 points. I have to double check that, but he produced for you. So Bucky Irvin, I gave you last week. Every week I've given you somebody who's been on point. This week is going to be no different. This week it's going to be clearly Juju Smith-Schuster. Terrible name, but the fact that Kansas City Chiefs obviously are going to be without Rice, if not for the season, for multiple weeks. They're still waiting on that final secondary, but they expect a torn ACL out for the season. We'll see what happens. But they're going to look to their options here. They picked him up. They brought him back for one reason. He's familiar with Patrick Mahomes, their system. They have Sky Moore, but he's been a little inconsistent, obviously. They're going to look to heavily Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce owners, he's been holding back. He had a good game last week, but he's about to blow up old Travis Kelce. If you got him, congratulations. He's about to go crazy for you. But Juju Smith-Schuster is your top. He is only right in less than 1% of rosters currently right now. That dude's available. Pick him up.
We're going to remember names, too, and follow them up in previous episodes because, to your point, Johnny, you're right about Bucky. I think he probably had like 12 or 13 points.
Yeah.
And I will give you credit on that. I said that you definitely should pick him up, but I asked you who you should start, and he actually did produce well, so he would have been a good flex option for you. For me, Johnny, it's very simple. You made an emphasis that the tight end position this year is very hard to come by. Mm-hmm. Tucker Kraft, Green Bay Packers. You're talking about a guy who's rostered in 5% of leagues, 6 catches, 53 yards last week. What you notice in this game, it was between him and Luke Musgrave to start the season as far as tight ends go. And now with Luff being injured, coming back from injury, you can see that this guy is like the little safe haven for him with those little dump throws. So again, Tucker Kraft, 5% of leagues he's available. And I believe this week, we'll talk about it next week, he's going to have a similar stat line, 5 or 6 catches, 50, 60 yards, and always an opportunity to score when Love is throwing you the ball.
I hope so. I just don't know if I can trust a guy named Tucker. But all right.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft. I do want to give you one more just because we're talking about Thursday Night Football.
It's a joke, Chris.
I got you.
It's a joke. You gotta laugh at my jokes, bro.
This is a terrible joke.
Give me a chuckle. Give me something.
Tyler Algier. Did I pronounce his name right?
You did.
Okay, Tyler Algier. He's rostered in 40% of leagues. But if you haven't figured it out yet, folks, 7.5 yards per carry. You're talking about a short week where Robinson is injured. He's been hobbled the last 2 games.
Questionable.
Well, yeah, but he's literally been questionable and hobbled the last 2 practices. I'm sure he's going to play. It's a Thursday night game, Johnny, but all I'm saying, he may be on a snap count. So look for him. If you're looking, I would put him in a flex option because the bye week's already started this week.
It's not a bad move. At the end of the day, I see them using Robinson first and second down. Goal line type things, it's going to go to Algier. So they're going to use him to muscle that ball into the goal line and score you some touchdowns. So expect a touchdown from Algier. It's a good pickup.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about start him, sit him, Johnny.
Start him and sit him.
Last week you gave it. We went back and forth. This time it's your turn. I'm going to hit you
I like
first.
the correction you did there.
I've got 3 names for you. You don't know them. I'm just going to throw them at you. You tell me your thoughts. Okay.
Go for it.
But it's very important because there's people right now that have waited for the fantasy segment, again, streaming on all platforms, that want to know from Florida Man Sports, start him or sit him. You ready?
Go for it.
Najee Harris. Before you say start him, before you say start him or sit him, let me tell you why this is a big deal, Johnny. It's a flex week. People are on bye week. You've got Warren that's coming back. Do you start him or do you sit him?
The first bye week of the season here. And if you guys are familiar with the show, you know my disdain for Najee Harris, who runs in slow motion. Najee Harris, who has yet to have a 100-yard game here this season. And if I'm not mistaken, he has not reached the end zone. He has not. That being said, guys, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboys do not have a good run defense. And because they do not have a good run defense, you will start the man that I hate, Najee Harris. So, yes, mainly because of the defense he's going against. If I'm not mistaken, they're ranked between 28 and 30 in the league in the run defense, Dallas Cowboys. You start Najee Harris.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Johnny. At the end of the day, this is what I would do. I would not only start him because I think he's going to get you around 15 points this week, but sell him. I would. So I would start him, put him in your flex if you need to, and if he does get you the points that you need, at that point, sell him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm always on board to sell Najee Harris. Yes.
Let me give you another name. I'm going to butcher his name anyway. Brandon
Ayuk.
He's had a couple of back-to-back bad games. Mm-hmm. He was drafted somewhat high this year, even with him wanting to get paid. This week, Johnny, do you start him or sit him?
Well, it's not just back-to-back. He hasn't eclipsed 50 yards in the game. He doesn't have a touchdown this season yet. So, yes, this is a premier receiver. They paid him the money. They try to trade him. There's a whole mess here. He hasn't done anything yet. But he's going against a extremely weak secondary in Arizona Cardinals. So it's the same formula with Harris, a weak secondary with Arizona Cardinals. He hasn't performed yet. What does that tell you? He's due. So for me, even though he has yet to perform, San Francisco has to kind of show up. That week 1, they look dominant. Since then, they've been So now's the time for them to shine, to show that they are a powerhouse in the NFC, and they're going to show that against the Arizona Cardinals. Go ahead and start it, Juke.
For the fans, especially here at Florida Man Sports, I always like to be with fantasy, hopefully on the same page, because it's already hard enough to make these decisions. But I'm gonna have to disagree with you, man.
That's all good.
At the end of the day, and again, I'm gonna butcher his name, but John Jennings, he's taken over
Jennings.
that. Yeah, he's taken over that role.
Oh,
of
yeah.
the other wide receiver. You add the fact that Deebo Samuel's healthy. You add the fact that George Kittle is playing next week, and for me, I'm gonna say sit him. Look, at the end of the day, it's not just the fact that you mentioned already, back to back, he has not had good games. He's not even having good practices, Johnny. You saw what happened with the coach about wearing the wrong shorts a couple days ago, made it a huge deal, and he was trying to pull his best Allen Iverson impression instead of being about practice, being about shorts. Yeah, so, I mean, the coach isn't there. They're not syncing. The quarterback sees it. I'm going to say you bench Brandon.
Guys, wide receivers have egos, extreme egos. They're crybabies. They're drama queens. This guy hasn't seen the end zone yet. He hasn't eclipsed 50 yards in a game. Eventually, that crying and that whining, it gets to the quarterback, and he's going to go ahead and produce, and it's against a weak secondary. I get you're right about everything, but purely because if he had gotten a touchdown or two last game, I would say no. But that dude is such a crybaby. He got his money. He has to show up there. He has to produce something. He has yet to do so. The game is going to do it.
I love it when you say I'm right about everything. Another disgruntled wide receiver, folks. What you get?
That's what you heard.
Florida Man Sports, let's put a bow on this one, Johnny. Sticking with wide receivers because this guy has had another egg back to back. But he is wide receiver one. Zay Flowers. Start him or sit him?
Flowers hasn't done much. He is wide receiver one in the offense, and I'm not a big fan of. It's obviously a run-first offense, not just with Henry, but with Lamar Jackson himself. The thing is, guys, is that the Ravens, Bengals, who they're playing, it's always a high-scoring game. The over-under on this game is 45 points. That's the over-under. So that should tell you everything you need to know that it's going to be a high-scoring game. A high-scoring game means they're going to have to throw the ball. It's not going to be Andrews. He's done. The ball is going to be thrown to two players, not just the dump passes like Chris like to Henry. It's going to go to Isaiah Likely, and it's going to go to Flowers.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
You
definitely start him. Bengals have allowed top receivers 75 yards on average and a touchdown every single game. I expect that to continue. Dust him off. He is a wide receiver one. He's not disgruntled. It's just that his stats are predicated more on the fact that the Ravens have had kind of weird last couple games. So please start Zay Flowers.
I think this is a type of game, like you said previously regarding Harris, to where you go ahead and play him. He's going to perform. And it's time to trade him.
No, don't trade him. Don't trade Zay Flowers. Don't trade him.
I think it's time to, in my opinion, I think it's time to trade because the dude has not produced at all this entire year. Like everything I mentioned, he's been under. He's had the same type of numbers as Brandon Ayuk there with the Niners, and he's going to go ahead and produce a bit. There's more upside with Brandon Ayuk with the Niners than it is for Flowers, in my opinion, based on the offense that they run. So once he goes ahead and performs this week, go ahead and sell high.
Listen, folks, this is Florida Man Sports, and once again, we just want to remind you that we're streaming on all platforms and remind you that we're excited. Basketball is back. Baseball is hotter than ever in October. I'm Christian. He's Johnny. We're out, y'all.
Biggie Bunny.